Paracelsus, the cures that shouldn't have worked. There are documented cases of incurable patients who walked out healthy. The man who treated them wasn't celebrated. He was exiled 7 times. His real name was Theophrastus von Hohenheim. He renamed himself Paracelsus. Para, meaning beyond. Celsus, the most respected physician of the ancient Roman world. He wasn't being modest. He was making a declaration. And the medical establishment of the 16th century heard it exactly the way he meant it. On the first day of his lecture series at the University of Basel, one of the most prestigious universities in Europe, he didn't open a textbook. He built a fire. And he threw the standard medical authorities into it. Avicenna, Galen, the texts every physician swore by. In front of the students, in front of the faculty. He said, "What you have been taught is killing people." They didn't debate him. They waited for a reason to remove him. They found one within a year. What he actually believed, the part most never reach. Here is what Paracelsus taught, that no mainstream history class will spend time on. He believed the human body had 2 layers. The physical layer, flesh, blood, organs. The layer medicine could see and touch. And a second layer he called the astral body, an invisible energetic structure that underlies and drives the physical one. His claim, disease does not begin in the flesh. It begins in the astral layer first, and then descends into the physical body. By the time a doctor can see it, it has already been in the patient for longer than the symptoms suggest. Treating only the flesh, he said, is treating the last stage of a process that started somewhere medicine refused to look. Now, dismiss that if you want. But here is the thing that is hard to dismiss. His cures worked. Contemporary accounts from people who were not his followers, some of whom actively disliked him. Patients with conditions that 16th century medicine called incurable. He treated them. They recovered. How? Paracelsus was the first physician in Western history to use chemicals as medicine. Before him, medicine was almost entirely herbal. He introduced zinc, laudanum, mercury compounds at precise, calibrated doses. That word, dose, is his. He is the origin of the foundational principle of all modern pharmacology. The dose makes the poison. Every drug that exists today, every prescription written by every doctor, is built on that principle. His principle. The man they exiled 7 times. But that's still the surface. Here is what goes deeper. He didn't separate his chemistry from his cosmology. He believed every plant, every mineral, every substance on earth carried a signature, a correspondence between its outer form and its inner spiritual property. A plant shaped like a liver treated liver disease. A mineral found in volcanic heat treated fever conditions. He called this the doctrine of signatures. And he believed the physician's job was not just to understand chemistry, but to read the hidden language written into the natural world. He said nature had already provided a cure for every disease that exists. The problem wasn't the availability of the cure. The problem was that most physicians weren't trained to see it. And then, now here is the part almost no mainstream account of Paracelsus includes. He believed in elemental spirits. Not metaphorically, literally. He described 4 categories of beings that inhabit the natural world. Gnomes, beings of the earth. Undines, beings of water. Sylphs, beings of air. Salamanders, beings of fire. He claimed these were not supernatural. They were natural, part of the fabric of physical reality, that human perception had been conditioned to ignore. And he claimed that a physician who understood how to work with these forces, rather than pretending they didn't exist, could achieve results that conventional medicine couldn't explain. This is why the establishment didn't just disagree with him. They were threatened by him, because the cures he was producing didn't fit inside the system they controlled. And a cure that doesn't fit your system is more dangerous to your authority than a patient who dies the way the textbook predicted. Here is the part that should make you stop. Paracelsus, in the 1500s, described the human body as a chemical laboratory. He described what we now call the immune system as an internal alchemical process. He described mental illness as having a physiological component, at a time when the official position was that madness was either demonic possession or moral failure. He described unconscious processes, the idea that something in the body operates beyond the patient's awareness or control, 200 years before any psychologist used the word unconscious. He said the physician who only treats the body and ignores the soul has understood neither. That is still, by the way, an ongoing debate in modern medicine. They exiled him 7 times. He died at 47, likely poisoned, though no one was ever charged. He left behind a body of work so far outside the accepted framework of his time that it took centuries for mainstream science to catch up to even the edges of what he was describing. The chemical basis of medicine, his; the concept of the dose, his; the idea that disease has invisible precursors, still contested. The elemental beings, still unacknowledged. But the cures worked, the records exist, and the question nobody in the official history has ever cleanly answered is, how? Next episode, we go deeper.